All right, Jim, you want to come up here and tell us about your story?
Yeah. Hi. So my name's Jim Luning. I'm a photographer in Chicago. Do advertising work. Directed. I write for some car magazines and travel magazines. But for the context of this story tonight, I am a national park nerd. I love national parks. I think they're the greatest thing that the United States have done straight out of the gate. I love visiting them whenever I can. Shenandoah National Park was my white whale. I could not get to that place. It was 10 years of trying to get there. Started out with an ex-girlfriend wanted to meet up there on a trip. She was going to fly in from another country. I was going to go to DC and meet her there, go see some monuments, drive over to DC, or drive over to Shenandoah, get a cabin, pretend we didn't suck as a couple, hang out for a couple days, and do some hiking. Well, as ex-girlfriends go, she bailed last minute. It's fine, trust me. So fast forward 9 years, I kept trying to get there, and everything would get in the way. It'd be like a hurricane, a fire, work, this, that, whatever. And the idea of going kept shape-shifting. It went from this romantic rendezvous to a road trip in the car that I had at the time, which was perfect for back roads and twisty turns. And then I got rid of the car. And then it turned into sort of a motorcycle trip. And I kept trying to figure out how to get there and not go across Indiana or Ohio. Seems you can't. So this was a couple years ago, and I finally said, fuck it. I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna hop on the thing and just blast ass and get to Front Royal, Virginia. So at the time I had a 2005 Honda VFR 800, pretty well set up for me. I had tweaked the suspension, had a power commander in it, had a nice Corbin seat, taller windshield, gel grips, and had this great Delcovic exhaust system. The thing sounded like a flat plane V8 crossed with like an F1 car. Awesome sound. Really fast, really comfortable. So I took off 4 o'clock in the morning and just hauled ass all the way to Front Royal, about 600 and some miles. It took me 12 hours. That bike has about a 5-gallon tank that it was a hungry girl. Very hungry. So I kept stopping, but anyway, 12 hours later, I was finally there. The whole time, it never got over 45 degrees. So that was fun. Next day, I'm in Front Royal, and I'm, 10 miles from the visitor center in Shenandoah National Park, which was like where I'm going to get my stamp, I'm going to get my map, I'm going to complete my collection, and then I will have done it. I've gone and got the 10-year task taken care of. So I do. That's great. Go in, come in, and come out from the visitor center, and I'm in the parking lot, loading back up, and there's a kid rolls up in a Husky 701, completely, all enduroed out. He's like, well, that's a cool bike. I'm like, well, that's a cool bike. So we have a little chat about motorcycles, and I'm on my merry way. One of the things I wanted to do in Shenandoah was to drive all of Skyline Drive. And this whole trip is sort of morphed into just going to Shenandoah and experiencing that. And, and just looking at that, I realized that Blue Ridge Parkway, the northern terminus of Blue Ridge Parkway is the southern terminus of Skyline Drive. I'm like, fuck, I'll do this whole thing. So it became this great escape motorcycle trip. And the Blue Ridge Parkway, if you've ever been on it, is an absolutely fabulous, fascinating road to be on. It's a true parkway. There's minimal places to get on or off. The texture of it has its own grit and feel to it. And you're going along the Blue Ridge Mountains, which are absolutely stunning. And this is in October, so the trees are starting to change. It's a crispy air, the sun's a little bit lower in the sky. And I'm on Blue Ridge and just flying because it's like a Wednesday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in October. There's no traffic at all. I'm like, fuck this, man. This is my racetrack. I'm Valentino Rossi. I'm the fucking doctor. I'm a god, and this bike is my chariot. I'm flying. Speed limits were just like, fuck you. So I crest this hill, and I see on the backside of it is this long descent into like one of the most sublime bent sweepers to the right. And I drop a couple gears, punched up to 8,000 RPM, and just fucking hit it. Going down the hill, coming in close to the turn, grab the front and rear brake, drop down a couple more gears, just dive hard into the turn. As I'm apexing, coming out of it, pulling back in the throttle, kaboom! My back tire fucking exploded. So at that moment, like milliseconds, the bike is suddenly the front row of dancers in the Michael Jackson Thriller. It's flipping around, the back end's twerking. I jump up on the seat, grab the clutch, grab the front brake, and get myself stopped. And at this point, I'm now on the upside of the other hill in the middle of the road, just sitting there with a stopped bike, and like I look back, and it's on the rim. So that was fun. I kind of hobble my way up to the top of this hill, which is like another 50, 60 yards. And there's, it's not like an intersection, it's more like a little access road of some sort. So I pull over there. I can't even put the bike on the side stand because it's so low now because the tire's blown out. I have to use the center stand. And the VFR it's a sport touring bike, so I had the luggage on it. Hike that thing up. I look and I'm just like, fucking hell. I was brilliant 2 minutes ago. There was no traffic. This was a racetrack. I'm a god. I'm an idiot. So, expletives. And so I'm like, all right, well, I gotta do something here. The phones, there's like a half a bar. I walked up another hill and I had like a full bar, and I tried to call AAA, and then I got their message, and it's like, 2 hours for the, use our app. I'm like, yeah, right. So that didn't work. Now, if you've ever been on Blue Ridge, there's the shoulder is about 16 inches of sort of sloped grass, and then there's a 2-foot ditch that kind of rolls out, and then there's like the edge of the earth. This is like where like the flat earthers live, because like that's space. So I'm trying to get on that because the bike will not go straight on the tarmac. It's just like it's twerking around, it's wobbling everywhere. You can't hold it straight. So I get on the grass, and it's at least going forward. And I know I'm just like smoking my clutch out, but I'm like idling the thing along in first gear and just sort of like trotting it along with my feet too, trying to keep it upright. This goes on for 3 miles. Not fun. So, and I'm coming up this other hill, and there's a car parked on one of these, like, it's like barely a turnoff. It's like a 1-car little like turn off to go and like look at the valley. And there's a car there. And I've been hucking this thing for like 3 miles, and it's taken me like 45 minutes, and I'm just huffing and puffing. So I get up to the car, and I just stop the bike. I'm like, and there's a couple. They're older than me, so they're like in their 60s maybe. They kind of crane around, like, oh, hello. I'm like, hey. The guy gets up, comes over, and he's like, wow, you look like you got a problem there. I'm like, I do. Would you happen to have a spare Michelin tire? No, he didn't, unfortunately. But so we're like looking, and like I'm trying to tell them what I've been up to and what I'm doing. I'm trying to get to Roanoke that night. And so at this point, his wife comes up, and we're talking, and it's like Chet and Renee, lovely couple. And they kind of, as we're talking, they kind of do this look back and forth at each other. It's like this couple's telepathy thing. And Chet's like, I ride. And, I got a couple of BMWs and, a Harley. And, well, I've got a trailer. I'm like, oh? He's like, yeah. we're just up here. This is our wedding anniversary, so we came up here to watch the sunset, have some wine, like have some cheese and just sort of hang out. But, we'll help you out. I'm like, really? Okay, awesome. So like, what do we do? And so we got in their car, and it's 45 minutes to their house. So we go. Grab the bags off the bike, kind of shove it off in the corner, get in their car, go to their house, 45 minutes. Load up the trailer, 45 minutes back. We load up my bike, 45 minutes back to their house. So we get there, and in the meantime, his wife had ordered a pizza. I put gas in the car, and we're having dinner together. They're like, well, we got a spare room. You might as well just stay. Because not like you're going to go anywhere. And there's a Honda shop. First of all, I am not a mark. Like, if somebody wants to do some weird shit, a 250-pound Sasquatch is not the best first choice. So I felt pretty confident that it wasn't going to be like weird, maybe like a pee party, but like nothing weird-ish. But they're lovely. They're like, really like just nice people. And Chet had a K1200R sport bike and like an R1100, like a kind of a weird Harley that he built, and just super cool. And Renee was like just wonderful people, and they were both like professionals. She worked in HR, he was like a banker. So the next morning we get up at 4:30 in the morning, and they take me to Lynchburg, Virginia, which is another hour the other way, and they drop me off at Lynchburg Honda. So I'm there at like 6 a.m., sitting on their doorstep. And at this point, I'm just like, well, Chet had to get to work by 8, like in 2 hours the other way. So, fucking mazel tov to those guys. So I'm sitting there at the Lynchburg Honda, and I get on social media. I'm like, I'm pestering them via social media. I'm like, hey, just on your doorstep. Need a tire. Hope you got one. About 8:30 rolls around, and I've just been like sitting there like, okay. About 8:30 rolls around, and the service manager shows up, and he just kind of looks at me like, what's up? I'm like, tire, blown, bad, needs fix. He's like, we got you. So they opened up at 9, they let me in, and in a half hour, also +1 for having a single-sided swing arm, because that tire just like flies right off. So I had a new tire, one model better than what I had, for less than I could have ever gotten it anywhere else. They gave me like a, sorry for you discount. No, literally. I told them their story. They're like, that's awesome. Here's a discount. And in 30 minutes, I was on my way back onto Blue Ridge and into Roanoke. So I get into Roanoke maybe like 10 a.m. So I'm well behind my schedule. So from Roanoke, blast out to Asheville, stay overnight there, and it's just getting colder the whole trip. I come out of the hotel on the next day in Asheville, and I'm chipping frozen dew off of the seat of my bike, and like just kind of smacking at the tank to kind of like break all the ice off of it. And then I roll into Smoky Mountain National Park. And at this point, I have achieved my goal. I have gone from Chicago to Shenandoah. I've gone hiking in Shenandoah. I've driven Skyline Drive. I got down Blue Ridge Parkway, and I'm now in one of my other favorite national parks, which is Smoky Mountain. From there, I drove through Knoxville, through Lexington, past Cincinnati, all in like one stretch from Asheville, pulled over someplace, I forget what the town was, and then made it back to Chicago. 4.5 days, 1,900 miles. Chet and Renee, two of the most wonderful people. I was screwed because the sun was going down. There was nobody around. This wasn't a camping trip, so I had nothing with me. It was getting really cold, and there was nothing. So I would have had to walk or something because there's no buddy. up in the mountains there. So during our conversation over dinner, they're big fans of different wines and whatnot, and I had been in the Republic of Georgia the year prior. So for Christmas, I sent them 2 bottles of Georgian wine that I found at a liquor store here in Chicago, just to like kind of seal the circle of a story. But those 2 saved me in a really wonderful way. I've always thought of when I travel that if you just kind of let things happen, they will, and they most likely will happen for the good. And if you're open to the universe, like just giving, and you're gracious and you're funny and you can like bring something to the table when somebody asks you to come over for dinner, you're probably going to survive and be doing pretty well. So that is my story. Two more real quick things. I want to say thank you to all the other speakers tonight. You guys did a really great job. It's wonderful to listen to you all. So like, give yourselves a round of applause for that. It's really awesome. I need to do one real quick story to thank the Chicago motorcycle community. October, I had my 2006 KLR stolen from right in front of my place. I was like, fuck! Second bike has been stolen. So it was right in front. I live in the Wicker Park, right off of Ashland, and I went and got groceries. This bike had like panniers and all that stuff. So I had it parked out in front for like 2 hours, and it got walked off. Totally my fault for not locking it completely up, but whatever. So immediately I got on the horn, did the cop thing, and then contacted all my known friends in the influencers in the Chicago community, like Nick from Tarnish, Mike from Federal, Johnny from Motorworks, all these guys. Sent them a note, sent them something to put on social media. 14 hours later, I'm next door at a production company, my neighbors I've never met, watching security footage of my bike being stolen. And I get a call from this guy who I've never met, who saw a post from somebody I don't have any affiliation with at all, saying that he's standing next to my motorcycle on Armitage. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I was like driving home and flipping through stories on Instagram, and there was your bike, and I looked over at the stop sign, I'm like, well, goddamn! He says here to call the cops with this number and then call him. Oh, all right. So he did. I jam over there, and there's my bike, completely intact. Like, I had a seat concept seat on it. It was pulled off, and they had tried to hotwire it. And in doing so, backstory, the bike had literally a thimble of gas in it. I was playing the Will I Walk game with myself. It was going to go in the garage, and it got stolen. They had tried to hotwire it in such a jackass way that they blew out every fuse. They never rode it. They walked it off and just like pushed it around town. And I'm also pretty sure that, no offense, but Chicago schools, they probably thought KLR was KTM and thought they could do wheelies up and down Ashland with it, but no such luck. Anyway, thank you for anybody who saw that post or forwarded it or whatever. It was 14 hours. The bike was back in my possession. It cost me like $100 to like get a new gauge cluster and ignition. So, thank you everyone.